Welcome back to A+ Maths. If you're watching this video, you've probably made it through the first 7 of my 8 factorising videos, and this is the last video which is on addition and subtraction of algebraic fractions. To thoroughly go through algebraic fractions with addition and subtraction, we can go through 7 examples which should cover the majority of questions that you'll encounter. So let's have a look at number 1. In number 1, we're going to do a normal algebraic fraction, just with numbers on the denominator, so we can get a common denominator. And our common denominator here will be 3 times 4, which is 12. I like my second line of working to just have one fraction. A lot of people do it as 2 separate fractions and then join it together. This is the way I like to do it. You can do it however you like, or if your teacher does it a particular way, obviously you would do it the way your teacher does it. My common denominator is 12. So I'm looking at 3. 3 times what will give me 12? Times by 4. So I need to times the top by 4. So it's 4 times 2x. As usual, I'm not going to do 2 things at the same time. I'm not going to expand the brackets right now. So my next line will be multiplying everything out. And that's going to be good practice for the questions that get more difficult. Here, 4 times what is 12? 4 times 3. So I need to multiply the top by 3. And I expand the top and write down what's left. 4 times 2x is 8x. 3 times y is 3y. All over 12. And I'm finished. Let's have a look at question number 2. I have 2 numbers on the denominator, which means that I just need to get a common denominator with numbers. So 3 and 5. Hopefully you all know that the common denominator is going to be 15. 5 times 3 is 15, so we can use 15. Sometimes if you multiply them together, it won't be the smallest common denominator, and that can be an issue with simplifying later, but at the moment let's just stick with these ones. 5 3s are 15. 3 times what is 15? 5. So I need to multiply what's on top by 5. Don't multiply it, just put the brackets. 5 times 3 is 15. So I need to multiply this one by 3. But remember from our equations that I'm not going to multiply this whole thing out just yet. I'm just going to multiply the 3 and the 2, and then I'll worry about the brackets later. Of course, my next line will be to expand the brackets. Be careful, minus 6 times minus 4 is plus 24. And then you collect like terms if you can on the top. 5x minus 6x is minus 1x, and 5 plus 24 is 29, so you write plus 29 over 15. Hopefully everybody can follow that. Third example. This time we want to put some algebra on the denominator. Algebra and some numbers. I need to think about what's the common denominator. I find that the best way to do that is to think that you want one of everything. So you have the numbers 1 and 5. So the common denominator there is obviously 5, because 5 times 1 is 5. Then I have a y over here, so I need a y. And over here I have a y, but I've already written the y down. So I only need to write it down once. Then we need to think about what's left. Y times what gave me 5y? Y times 5 would give me 5y. So I need to times the top by 5. The next one, 5y times what gives me 5y? 5y times 1. So it's 1 times 3y. I expand the top. This is the easy bit. And I write down what's left, and there's nothing to simplify, so I'm finished. That's a little bit tricky. Let's do another one. Okay, let's move on to another question. This one is very similar to question number 3. We have 2 fractions subtracted together with x's or algebra on the denominator, and that's what makes it more difficult. Do you remember what we have to do for the first line? We need to make sure that we have a common denominator. We need one of everything that's on the bottom. So what do we actually need on the bottom here? We need an x plus 1, and we need an x minus 1. One of each. Now we need to look at each fraction and see what's down here that's not there. Or what do I need to multiply this by to get that on the denominator? So what do I need to multiply x plus 1 to get x plus 1 times x minus 1? Or I like to think of it sometimes as being what's missing. So look down here, and what's missing? The x minus 1? That's what you need to multiply the top by. What's missing? Minus. What's missing on the second fraction? Or what do you need to multiply that by to get that? X plus 1. Good, if you said that. 2x plus 1. I now have a common denominator. All I need to do now is to simplify the top correctly, expand the brackets, and collect like terms. 3 times x is 3x, 3 times minus 1 is minus 3, minus 2 times x is minus 2x, and because we've put in brackets, we'll get it right with the minus in the middle. Minus 2 times plus 1 is minus 2, and now I need to collect like terms. My denominator doesn't change. 3x minus 2x is 1x, and minus 3 minus 2 is minus 5. Hopefully now you'll be starting to get the hang of it. Keep watching, and it will become clearer as we go along if it's not already. We need a common denominator. Remember, we need one of everything. So we need 1x, and then we need an x squared. You do not need to put an x and an x squared. You can, but that's a little bit like if I have a fraction as x over 2 plus x over 4, what's your common denominator there? You could say 4 times 2 and your common denominator would be 8. But hopefully most of you realise that the best common denominator here would be 4, because 2 goes into 4 and 4 goes into 4. It won't be wrong if you used 8, but it means that you would need to simplify at the end. And the problem when you're doing algebraic fractions is that if you don't pick x squared and you wrote x cubed or x squared times x, you might actually find that you don't know enough algebra yet to be able to simplify it further on, and that's the problem here. When they were numbers, we could simplify them because it was just a matter of dividing the top and the bottom by 2 or by 3, no problem. Here you have a problem because you may not know enough algebra yet to be able to simplify it properly after we've finished. So if you have an x and you have an x squared, then your common denominator is x squared. What do we need to multiply this by to get x squared? X. So you've got to times the top by x. Remember, we're not expanding anything, we're just putting it in brackets. We're timesing the top, which is 1, by x. Over here, what do we need to multiply x squared to get x squared? 1. It stays the same. If you want to multiply by 1, you can multiply by 1, or you can just not write down the multiplied by 1. Either way, it's fine. Then we need to expand the brackets, and of course collect like terms, but we don't have any like terms, so we're done. We need to get a common denominator, which is one of each of the terms on the bottom. So we need 1y. We need a y plus 1. We already have a y from over there. And we need a y minus 1. Now we have to look at what's here. And you need to think about what's missing. So what's missing from there? The y minus 1. So it's 4 lots of y minus 1. Plus, what's missing from the denominator on the second fraction? You've got the y minus 1. So we're missing y plus 1. So it's 3 lots of y plus 1. I hope you all get it. It's starting to hopefully make a little bit more sense. And then we need to expand the brackets and simplify. And hopefully you can all do that. You don't need to expand the denominator. Very rarely will you need to expand the denominator. And then we collect like terms on the top if possible. 4y plus 3y is 7y, and minus 4 plus 3 is minus 1. And you write the denominator underneath. Here we're adding two fractions together. Again, we have x minus 2, and then we have x minus 2 all squared. Hopefully we all understand we need 1x minus 2, but then we need an x minus 2 squared. So that just becomes a squared, and the x minus 2 is still there. It's inside the x minus 2 all squared, like the question we did before with the x and the x squared. What do I need to multiply that by to get that? X minus 2, so that goes on the top, plus this is already x minus 2, so I need to multiply that by 1. We can write it down, or not, depending on how much you like to do. Then we expand the top. The bottom stays the same. Don't expand the bottom. Don't worry about it, just leave him there. Don't forget to write it down though. And collect your like term. And the denominator just stays there. The last type of question that you could get in algebraic fractions is one like this, where you're given the two fractions, but you can factorize the denominators. So of course, whenever you're in a situation where you can factorize one of the denominators, we obviously need to factorize it. So the first thing we have to do here is to take out a common factor. And this one stays the same because there's no common factor. And now we need to get a common denominator. We need one of those, we need one of those, and we've already got the x minus 1, so we don't need to write anything extra. That is exactly the same, so we need to multiply that by 1. X minus 1, what's missing? The x, so I need to times the top by x. Then I expand the brackets, and there's nothing to collect with like terms, so I'm finished. So anytime you get a fraction or an algebraic fraction, if you can factorize the denominator, you should do that. Let's do one more of those and then we'll be finished for the day. Let's have a look at our last question where we need to factorize both of our denominators because they're both quadratic expressions. If you've been watching all the other videos, you should have no problem identifying two terms. It's the difference of two squares. X minus 2, x plus 2. The minus stays in the middle. And then here I have a trinomial. It's a monic trinomial because there's a 1 in front of the x squared. So we multiply to give 8, add to give negative 6. 4 times 2 is 8. And minus 4 minus 2 is minus 6. So we factorized it. Now we need to get a common denominator. And what do we know about our common denominator? It's one of everything. We need one of those, x minus 2. One of these, x plus 2. One of these, it's x minus 4. This is a long denominator. And x minus 2 I already have. So now I need to think, what is down here that's not there? Or, what do I need to multiply this by to get that? X minus 4. Hopefully everybody understands x minus 4 times the top by x minus 4, but we don't multiply it, we just put it in brackets. Minus, we don't need to worry about the minus until later. What am I missing from here? X minus 4, x minus 2, the x plus 2 is missing. That's what I need to multiply by the top. The denominator stays the same. I need to expand the top and simplify. I now need to expand the top and simplify. 5x minus 20 minus 3x, be careful, minus 3 times plus 2 is minus 6. The denominator just stays the same. And then I just need to collect like terms. 5x minus 26 all over the denominator, which we don't expand. Thanks everybody for watching my new video. Don't forget to like and subscribe below.